remotely from Pittsfield Township, Washtenaw County, in the great state of Michigan.
Commissioner Schenk.
Present, attending remotely from Northfield Township, Michigan.
Thank you. We have a quorum.
Thank you, Robert. We'll move on to item 2, citizen participation. We'll open the public comment. This is the portion of the meeting where members of the public may address the Board of Commissioners. And if you're participating in public comments, please announce your name and where your residence is. You're limited to 5 minutes during the working session public comment period. And as this is a remote meeting, please use the raise your hand function in Zoom. We're going to recognize people in the order that they raise their hand. And if you're on the phone, you can press *9 to raise your hand as well. I do not see anybody identifying for public comment this evening. So I don't even see anybody in the queue. So we're going to go ahead and move on. We'll skip past item 3, which is commissioner follow-up to public comment, on to item 4, the county administrator's report.
Good evening, commissioners. The only report I have is extending the thanks from the administrator for him to be absent today, and I'll be providing the Safe House update to you all in just a little bit.
Thank you, Diane. I know we're looking forward to that. So we will now move on to our first of our 2 discussion items tonight. The first is a report from the Food Policy Council. And we've got the chair, Ms. Gerhart, with us this evening. Good evening. Thanks for joining us. I'm going to turn the meeting over to you. So it is all yours.
Great. Thank you, commissioners. We're waiting for Dad to come home. He should be home any minute. So right now, we have a little guy joining. Apologies. Every year, the Washtenaw Food Policy Council takes a second to give an annual report to you guys. And as the chair in 2021, I am tasked with giving you that report. So you should have received our PDF file of that report. And then I am going to share some PowerPoint slides and tell you a little bit about our council and what we've been up to this year. And I would also like to recognize Ann Hubbard, who's one of our council members. She's joining me today. She was the real brawn behind creating the PDF. So thank you, Anne. And she'll be happy to help me answer any questions at the end of this. Okay. Great. So Washtenaw Food Policy Council. Our mission is to increase and preserve access to safe, local, and healthy food for all residents of Washtenaw County. We were started back in 2012. At first, we were a policy committee of the Food System Economic Partnership, which was kind of an ad hoc group of a bunch of stakeholders who wanted to see local food thrive in Washtenaw County. In 2012, we formed, I say we, but I was not part of this at that point. The Food Policy Council formed as a subcommittee of the Board of Commissioners. Since then, there has been a lot of different growing stages that we've gone through with our policy agenda items and visioning processes and things like that. The values that we hold dear are that the food system is complicated and has multi facets. We have a commitment to social justice. We value evidence-based decision-making. We value stewardship of human, financial, and environmental resources. And we value collaboration rooted in trust and compassion. Our structure is that we have an executive committee, which has a chair, a vice chair, a policy liaison, a racial equity liaison, and a secretary. Under that, we have these policy action teams, and our members, our council members are all part of these teams, as well as members of the public. These teams are our way of getting the work out there and not having the work just come from our 18-member committee, but having it be a more community-based process. So we have 18 council members, 18 seats, and they all have these different topics. So racial equity, faith-based organization, you can read the slide here. There are multiples at times, and these seats serve 1 to 2 year terms so that we can alternate and we don't have like a whole council turnover at any one point. The council meets 6 times a year for 2 hours in each meeting. The policy action teams meet monthly or about monthly for 1 to 2 hours. And as I said before, the Food Policy Council is a subcommittee of the Board of Commissioners. The Health Department is our fiscal agent. This was established a couple years ago, or maybe even last year. And the county has generously allocated funds to support a 0.2 FTE admin from the Health Department, and also those funds to help cover any indirect costs related to grants, as well as stipends for council members. We operate with a policy agenda, and this agenda has been updated a couple times. We updated it just recently, just this year, and you will see this coming across your desk in January, I believe. We have approved a new version in 2021. We made some changes based on our work with equity. Apologies. And also organized it a little more to kind of fit our needs and better represent the work that we're doing. So our vision is that the Food Policy Council is a vibrant group that regularly advises county commissioners, the Board of Health, and City Council. One second.
That might be a first for the county commission, as we have an infant delay.
I feel like it's fabulous. Like,
Yeah.
I
So do I.
thought
Go on
this, like,
record. Tell Jay thank you for
Well, I
somehow
understand.
managing to do this.
Yeah. I
Well,
understood the baby, but you
it
don't
just
know
lets
what,
us know what our priorities really are.
That's
you
right.
don't want to know what the baby was saying for real.
Right. We want to regularly meet with council. We want to engage with our state legislators. We want the community to know that they can come to us. We want to be a presence in the community. We want there to be connections between the new farms and the old farms. We want produce to be accessible. We want to be modeling best practices for the county and for the city, but mostly for the county, but for really any government agency that's looking at procurement. And that we have an organizational structure to respond rapidly to funding opportunities, which is something that we've worked on quite a lot this year. So I'm going to talk a little bit about our programs that we've done in 2021, kind of the big work that we've done. And this is, of course, all highlighted in your packet. So we filled a racial equity liaison position, and that person has been wonderful in helping us become better, I guess you could say, at the racial equity work of the food system that we do locally. We all attended, or most of us attended, an Uprooting Racism in the Food System training that also included community members in like food adjacent or food type organizations like Growing Hope or Hope Clinic or Farm of St. Joe's, things like that. There was also an Equity in Action project that was done. These were both done with a grant dollars from the Michigan Local Food Council Network. That Equity in Action project was interviews with Black farmers to kind of understand their needs. And then from that has kind of come about the Washtenaw County Black Farmers Fund, which I think many of you already know about. The Food Policy Council is a coalition member of that fund. And so our members help with capacity building, report back to the council on the work that's being done. And we're very excited and proud to be a part of that fund. And we also adopted a racial equity statement this year, our racial equity statement says, we believe food is a basic human right and a core part of our society. We believe the laws and rules that shape our food system are rooted in white supremacy and must evolve. To work towards a more equitable food system, the Food Policy Council prioritizes policies and projects that promote equity for groups who have been systemically excluded. So that was our racial equity work. The other two things, kind of buckets that we worked on this year were building relationships with elected officials. We're always working on this. And this year we met with Commissioner Sanders and Commissioner Hodge and really talked about what are your priorities as commissioners and how does food intersect with that? And just talking through some ideas for research that the council could do for different policy things that we might be able to recommend. So we are actually engaged in some of that right now, especially as you guys know, with all this ARPA funding and other funding that just seems to be falling from the sky from Washington, being ready with and thinking about the food system and what it needs is important, especially food security. Organizational structure, we finalized an external case statement, which is really not external, it's actually an internal working document. And it's a document that helps us more readily apply for grants because it kind of clarifies who we are, what we do, why we do it, and what the need is for any funding opportunities, grant opportunities that arise. We also got a U of M intern for 2022. That was just announced recently. That person will do more grant searching and grant development with us so that we can be ready to apply for grants when they come. They'll also help us with our social media campaign. We're not great on social media. You know, as I think some of you know, social media, you really need like someone to do social media and none of us are good at it. So we're hoping that we can really up our game in the social media world. I want to highlight 3 PAT projects. And again, these are in the PDF. The Planning and Zoning PAT catalog zoning ordinances for chicken keeping, beekeeping, and slaughterhouses. And they created a GIS system that helps display the variation of zoning across the food system. This is the preliminary findings of this were that urban ordinances have a more lenient chicken keeping policies than our rural ordinances, which we found a little surprising. They also created a fact sheet for PDR programs, purchase of development rights. I'm going to walk and talk, go into a quieter room. We also, the food access and nutrition PAT was worked on the area, Ann Arbor Area Transit Authority reopened in 2021. And from the pandemic, they like added some routes and things. And so the that committee was really concerned about the restoration plan and making sure that it was equitable, especially for folks looking to, needing groceries and needing access to food shelter, food distribution sites, places like that. And they did an internal analysis, which they presented to the Ann Arbor Area Transit Authority when those lines were getting reestablished. And they drafted so that they gave that to the Ann Arbor Area Transit Authority. They also engaged quite heavily in child nutrition reauthorization work, which is a federal policy of the Farm Bill that they were very active in. And lastly, the Farmers PAT did a survey with our area farmers and asked, what are your barriers for infrastructure? By and large, one of the biggest responses that was received was that there's a lack of builders and contractors for farm buildings. You know, we have a lot of contractors for home renovation and things like that. And so there seems to be a lack of resources in that department. So looking at 2022, we know that there's a bunch of money coming down in various ways through state government, through local government, through some Farm Bill, USDA programs. And so we want to be ready to apply for grants that could help us do food system work. And so we're thinking and looking at what do we need locally and what can we, what would we use that money best for? We're also always wanting to engage more with elected officials. We're, of course, as I mentioned, increasing our social media presence, finding a home for local food planning and zoning maps that I talked about with the planning and zoning team. We're also in 2022, you'll see this come across your desk in January too, we're adding a disability justice seat. There will still be only 18 members in the council, but that will be another seat that can be filled. And we will also be updating those policy agenda items, and you'll see that. The biggest thing, which I can't believe is back, is we have to start thinking about the 2023 Farm Bill, which I feel like we just finished the 2020 Farm Bill. But here we are again, back on, it's the 2018 Farm Bill. So we have to start thinking about that as well, looking into 2022. So again, there's me, my name, my email. If you have any questions, we're happy to take that now. And I hear Dad just came home, so crying will hopefully calm down. Apologies.
So Jay, I think I want to start by first thanking you for committing the time to chair the Food Policy Council. As a mother there, you've got a lot of responsibility. So thank you for contributing in this way to our county to begin with. I want to look to see if anybody has any questions, and if you wouldn't mind stopping to share your screen, it'll help me see everybody in the call.
Great.
So I can effectively recognize them.
Cool.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions? I see Commissioner Hodge up first.
Thank you, Chair. Not really a question. I just want to say thank you for the presentation and thank you for the invitation to come to the Food Policy Council recently. I was incredibly impressed with how efficiently everything ran. I think I mentioned that a few times while I was there. I also really appreciated the offer to do some research about a few of the issues that I expressed being interested in, and that the group is also interested in. I think the work that you guys are doing could really be a model for a lot of the other boards and commissions and committees that we have. So thank you again.
Thank you. Yeah, we're excited to do some of that research for you.
All right, Commissioner Sanders.
I just want to say, without saying that my other committees don't do work, but the Policy Council kind of runs some circles. So for them to be basically all volunteer, they are working a whole lot of things out, and I think they do a great job.
Thank you. It's a passion for a lot of us.
Looking around to see if anybody else has any questions. Commissioner Schenk.
Thank you. It's good to see you. Jay, thank you for the update. Some of these issues are issues that are thorny and have been hanging around for a long time. And I really appreciate the Food Policy Council taking them on and making so much progress. I would agree that the Food Policy Council is a good model for other committees in terms of taking on difficult issues and doing real work that makes real change for our community. And so I could probably go on, but I won't. I can confirm there is a shortage of people to do work on farms. And I think that in the past, that's why the farmers were just expected to know everything about everything on their farm, which is not that practical in modern farming. So anyway, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Commissioner Scott and then Commissioner Morgan.
Thank you, Chair. Jay, I'm glad that your child has been involved in politics so early. Like, I mean, I think that that's a good thing. And I loved it. My 14-year-old's sleeping in the other room, so
Lucky.
you might hear squawking different than that squawking, and yours is probably more pleasant. So that I think was delightful for me as a mom, just thinking about like the stories you'll tell your child someday. Also, somebody is doing something right in terms of social media or reach out, because it was an email or something that I got that it was about the Black Farmers Fund, and I was like, yes. Like, I don't have a lot of expendable income, but I was like, yes, that's something I want to give some money to and do that. So somebody hit me in all the right places with that. So whatever they're doing, like, keep that up. So, and I said I was going to put a tweet out about it, and then I never did. And so that was my fault. Jay, my question is kind of curious, just because I'm interested to know sometimes how people found the work that they're doing and the passion that drives them. How did you yourself come to be so passionate about this and get involved in the Food Policy Council?
That's a great question. Thank you. I worked on farms for 7 years, and those are all those small CSA farmers market type farms. And I got to the point where to be quite honest, I needed a real job. I needed something with health benefits, maybe some paid time off. That would be nice too. Not seasonal, also great. So I got really, really lucky and got the job with MSU Extension that at the time was listed as aggregator broker. And now it's called the Local Foods Coordinator. And I was able to keep my fingers in the game of local farms while also providing a very needed thing, which is that like resource for small farms. I think Extension is really good at like helping big farms. They have a lot of business management tools and crop production tools, but the small farms often get left behind. And it's kind of like a just pull yourself up by your bootstraps type of expectation. And so I saw this need, and then when this job was open, I was very excited to fill it, to help with that, to help with marketing, education, help grow the food system, create markets that are scale appropriate for a lot of our farms so that they can be successful. So that's how I got into it, and then through that, policy just made a lot of sense, because you can't really. It's just another layer that is needed in order to have a vibrant food system, is our folks thinking and looking at policy. So,
well, thank you. I think it's interesting to hear people's connection to things and know like what drives them in the work, because it can be hard to continue to do the policy and to continue to advocate sometimes when the kind of wheels and the cogs move so slow. So I appreciate hearing your background with that. I think you're doing a great job. The policy, you guys, with the equity lens that is clear that you have. And I like the kind of idea that also I feel like is coming from you, that like farming is for everybody, like too, like that farming is not like one subset of people. Farming is for everybody. And the idea of what food, I mean, before the meeting started, we were all having this conversation about the kind of cookware we like. And I was talking about the food I was cooking. Commissioner Morgan was talking about his dinner tonight. Like, food brings people together. And I think that there's so much that I see in what you're doing that I think is great. And so thanks for sharing for us your passion and how you came to this. And I really look forward to hearing from you. So thank you very much.
thank you. Thank you, Commissioner Scott.
Commissioner Morgan.
Thanks, Chair. Thank you so much, Jay. I feel like I've had the pleasure of knowing what the Food Policy Council is doing for a number of years here, and continue just to be so amazingly impressed at the work that's done. And as somebody who certainly is a big fan of farms, my family, where I grew up, were a lot of farmers. My grandparents were farmers. My dad's family were fishermen. which is kind of like farming, but a little different, a little smellier. And my boyfriend, his family owns a family dairy farm in the middle of Wisconsin, where we are going on Saturday for Thanksgiving. So I will have a lot of time playing with cows and kittens and everything else at the farm. And hopefully doing some work there. They let me feed them, but that's about all they let me do. But I do have an actual question in all of that, which is when the Farm Bill comes back up, is your plan to things that we could do to support good things in the Farm Bill or advocate for it with our federal officials? I know we would want to play a role in helping support that work. I know the Food Policy Council has been very strong on policy, and I would certainly look to you all to tell us what we should be advocating for in that legislation.
That's a great question and comment. And that in the 2018 Farm Bill, we did do a lot of education with our federal legislators and also the general public. And I think that, you know, having conversations with you guys about like the even the little things that we're really pushing this, like SNAP, like this amount of SNAP money, or this SNAP program, or this beginning farmer idea. I think, you know, you guys are all connected with other legislators. And so I think just sharing with you guys what we're looking at will probably be helpful. And engaging the public is a big part of what we want to do as well, because it all affects, as you said, food affects everybody. And I feel like so much of the time, we don't have time to really think about where our food's coming from and who has access and who doesn't have access. And so taking on that work is really important, and is exactly what we'll be doing with the Farm Bill. So we're excited. We would love to work with you guys and have conversations and just let you know what we see as opportunities policy wise.
Wonderful. That sounds great. I just know I think people forget, not any of us here, but a lot of folks in the public forget that the Farm Bill is more than just farming. It's so much more. It's related to food and nutrition, and safe, healthy food is so important to a lot of the racial equity work that we care about, to making sure we have healthy communities and healthy residents. There's just so much more that goes into it than just farming. So I look forward to that, and I'm sure we would all be interested in helping advocate wherever you would recommend that we can be helpful when that time comes. But again, just thank you so much for all that you do.
Thank you. Thank you.
Commissioner Beaman.
Thank you, Chair. I also just wanted to thank you for the presentation. As the commissioner with the biggest big farms.
Yeah.
Food is really important out here, and the irony of the chicken map and how that's actually a big thing in some of my more the villages and things that want chickens. So I appreciate that. I just was wondering, like, through your work, like what are you seeing in terms of like youth involvement? I know that's a big pain point in our area, is getting kids engaged on any end of the spectrum, whether it's the policy or the farming. So just wondering kind of what you're seeing.
Yeah, that's the youth are such an opportunity. And to be honest, I don't think we've done a good job of tapping into the youth yet, or like at least educating the youth on policy or anything related to that. Of course, there's so many great youth educators in our county, like 4-H, like Neutral Zone, and Bright Futures. And so Bright Futures actually is an interesting one. They've been getting food boxes from the farm at St. Joe's with like lots of local fresh produce, and like doing cooking classes with those kids. So that's more of a, it's definitely getting them involved in the food system. but hearing their comments and their voice and their opinions, I think is something we're not as good at yet, and could be a growth area for us. Because I mean, they're smart these days. I mean, I guess they were always smart, but they seem like really engaged and aware, and they know the internet better than we do. So that's fun. Thank you for that suggestion. Well, I'll take it back to council.
Definitely. And if there's any kind of cross pollination between our youth council and your council, if there's any interest or that sort of thing. And just from one mother to another on Zoom, you were totally been there.
Thank you.
Been there.
Super professional.
Commissioner Jefferson.
Thank you, Chair. Jay, thank you for that great presentation. I appreciate the work. Remember when this council began, and there was a lot of intensive work done to get it started, and it seems like you're keeping it going and increasing its reach and things like that is very important to have, food that can be grown and eaten, that can be more healthy in different areas. I like the fact that you even teamed up with AAATA to look for ways to do that. I think you're doing a great job at that. And as a mother, you were really calm. I appreciate that. I commend you for that.
Thank you.
Have a good evening. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner.
All right, just looking around to see if there's anybody else that has any comments. I do not see any. So Jay, I want to thank you and Ann for both being here tonight, and appreciate the informative presentation. So with that, I'm sure if anybody else has any other questions or comments, they'll get a hold of you after the meeting. So thank you again, and enjoy the rest of your night.
Thank you all. Thank you so much for your work.
Thank you.
We are going to move on to our second discussion item for the night, which is an update on Safe House Center. So I'm going to turn to the Deputy County Administrator, Diane Height, to provide that update.
Okay. Thank you all. Tonight, I appreciate the opportunity to be here for the administrator and provide you all with an update as to where we are with activities related to survivors and the Safe House Center in general. I'd like to share my screen here real quickly with you. And hopefully, need to do that. Hopefully you can see that. So the agenda for tonight is to really talk about the supports that have been provided to survivors thus far. And there are a few that we're continuing to work with at this time. I want to provide you an operations update from the interim executive director, Kim Montgomery, from Safe House. An update on the infrastructure improvements, and then talk a little bit about some recommendations and things that we'll be looking at over the course of the next couple of months related to governance, funding, and the mission, and then answer any questions that you might have this evening. So approximately 2 months ago, back in mid-September, Washtenaw County began to respond to needs for some of the survivors that had reached out to us and who stated that they were either displaced or were declined housing at the Safe House Center. Soon thereafter, October 6th, the Board of Commissioners passed a resolution allocating up to $75,000 to assist with these unsheltered survivors. So at this point, we've expended approximately $31,000 of the $75,000 that has been allocated. We had a total of 12 women and 1 man that were referred to the county or contacted the county administration requesting some support. All of them were DV survivors and they needed support. Could have been housing or other related services, non-sheltering support as well. The male contact that did reach out to us was immediately referred over to CMH based on some critical information that was provided to the staff at that time. 6 of the 12 women at that time were placed in temporary housing in local area hotels, and the remaining 6 women were not in need of emergency housing, emergency shelter, but did need some other ancillary services from either other Washtenaw County departments or partnering agencies within Washtenaw County. Some of those other services included, they may have needed assistance with groceries, gas, some medical expenses, transportation, and purchase of some personal items. So the current state of the survivors, as of, I guess that would have been a week ago Monday, there are 2 women of those that I just mentioned. 2 women continue to be in hotels until the beginning of December the 4th. We have been working with the folks that we have been, the survivors that we've been assisting in transition plans for working towards permanent housing or transitional housing to ultimately get them to a more permanent status. As it relates to partner support, as you know, the Delana Center is the county's designated agency to provide initial transitional housing, working with other partners within Washtenaw County, with the Housing Alliance and other providers within the housing to provide those resources. We also had a number of county departments that we worked with, community mental health in providing crisis services and whatnot. We reached out to the prosecuting attorney's office as well. And then OCED through the Barrier Busters program helped us in order to connect the survivors to the necessary services that they needed. In addition to that, administration really responded to the needs of their survivors whenever they contacted us. It could have been anytime from Sunday through Saturday. Sometimes we were out responding to survivors at 11:30 at night, and in order to meet the needs and make sure that everyone was safe and secure and had the resources that they needed moving forward. So in an email that Letitia had forwarded to all of you today, there are a couple of documents. One of them is from the interim executive director, Kimberly Montgomery, and it's a document about the Safe House Center itself and the operations, and gave an update really as to what has happened. First of all, what is Safe House? Safe House is an emergency shelter, and they provide safety for survivors of domestic violence and or sexual assault who are in immediate danger of being harmed in some way, hurt, and or killed. And at the time that if a survivor is accepted and approved for shelter at Safe House, they're given a minimum of a 35-day stay. That 35 days can be extended. It's done on an individual basis. During, let's say, 2020, there were some survivors that actually were at the Safe House Center for up to a year. So it really just depends on the resources that are needed and what information that they provide to Safe House, and as long as they have space and are able in which to continue to provide resources, they certainly want to do that. Now, Safe House, and I'm sure all of you know this, Safe House has had some difficulty with staffing over the course of the last number of months. Some staff have left. We've had a staffing shortage nationwide. Quite frankly, we're seeing that a lot in a number of areas currently in Washtenaw County, our community mental health area. Just a real difficulty hiring folks, and recruitment and retention is a real issue. So, however, Safe House has started the recruitment efforts. They have hired some folks, are going through training with them. But what happened when they lost so many staff is they lost the capacity to actually house at 24/7, provide that care necessary on a 24/7 basis. They continue to provide services to survivors in the community. However, the sheltering was a major issue at that time. So you should have a copy of the Safe House Center update that's been provided to you by Kim Montgomery. And in addition to that, we asked her to do, you've probably seen this before, we give you service highlights on a weekly basis. I think there's 6 primary areas, anywhere from how many residents are at the shelter, to how many calls are being answered, and emergency responses and legal support and so forth. So wanted to really provide you with an update of from August 1st until actually beginning of this week. So that again is one of the items that's in the email that was sent to you. As it relates to infrastructure updates, we provide you also on a weekly basis some of the work that's being done or is planned to be done by facilities management. There are a number of areas of the Safe House Center that were deemed that we needed to provide upgrades to. Those could have included the kitchen area, which is a high cost area. We are replacing the floor, cabinets, refrigerators, freezers, and things like that. A lot of things we're waiting for items to come in because there are, as you know, shipping or delays in actually receiving products. So this is partially funded at this point, and the remainder of the funding we need to determine. But at this point, we're looking to provide funding either through facilities management in managing the center itself or through Safe House funds. Painting was one area we wanted to get the center up to its next level. So we went in and painted all the hallways, the stairs, the common areas and meeting spaces, the hallways and door frames. One of the main things that they wanted to do when we saw on a walkthrough was put up wall protection in the bedrooms and restrooms, which would actually help with keeping the facility. We wouldn't have to do as many repairs to the actual paint in the walls and so forth, being a 24/7 facility once we put in place the wall protection. There's other things that we're waiting on. Those are those corner guards for all the main hallways. We have completed the majority of the landscape and courtyard activity at this point. We've done the weeding and cleanup. I say we, it's really facilities management that has done that. New siding and on the storage shed has occurred. And we're working on cleaning up the building perimeter landscaping as needed. And they will continue to do that, not just now to get it up to snuff, but we'll also continue to do that over time. One of the primary areas that we heard about and has been an issue is in the area of security and providing security enhancements, whether it's the outside perimeter, the additional cameras, the key locks, things like that on the front doors and on actually the individual bedroom doors as well. So that is one thing. We have some cost estimates out for that, and we'll be working to implement a more enhanced security system for the center overall. Whoops, sorry. So in the area of recommendations, things that we're looking at are in the areas of governance, funding, and mission. And we need to continue to take a look at, in the area of governance, the Safe House bylaws and make recommendations in line with the mission, purpose, and goals of the center. We need to look at the board of directors itself and the makeup of that board. I was reviewing the bylaws today, and I think it said they can have no less than 10, but up to 23 members on the board of directors. And what positions are they targeted positions, meaning that we need to have representation from different sectors across the county, or are they random? So we need to take a look at that and review that full composition. And then we need to continue to receive the weekly service highlights updates from the acting director to the county administrator and get those out to you. That will really help us understand, are we returning to a more normal pattern and safe and secure pattern for the survivors in being able to have stable housing or safe housing and other services provided to them. We need to review the funding. We have an existing service contract with Safe House, and we want to review that and update that as necessary. That hasn't been done for a number of years, so we need to take a close, hard look at that, and then review the Safe House operational and service structure and make sure that that meets the needs that you feel that are necessary, as well as what is necessary for the community. And then determine the funding sources for outstanding infrastructure projects, the things that I mentioned, the kitchen, the security, and that, It is our intention to move forward with all those. We just need to identify the funding sources where those will be coming from. And then the mission, we need to determine what do we want Safe House, what do we want Safe House to be? What is necessary for the community at large? And really review the mission, redefine the mission if as necessary, and so that we can be sure to be a safety net service provider in supporting the survivors of domestic violence and sexual assault. And that's what I had as an update for you.
Thank you, Diane.
And I can stop sharing as well.
Yeah, that helps to see everybody on the screen. Thank you. Appreciate the informative update, what's been happening at Safe House and with those that we are trying to help there.
And I think you also got an update from Greg last week, last Friday. And we'll continue Greg's goal and his commitment to you, I know, was to continue to provide that on a weekly basis or more if necessary.
Thank you. Looking for questions for Diane on Safe House. Commissioner Schenk.
Thank you, Chair. Diane, I know you're the messenger. You are not Safe House. And I know that you're also a messenger for Greg, but I will say that reading Ms. Montgomery's letter where it says that Safe House has been operating normally since August, then why was the county left caring for so many survivors is my question. And I've heard so many stories from people, not survivors who were being assisted by the county presently, but people who had experienced Safe House in the past, that I'm just really concerned about that statement. I'm concerned about a number of things regarding Safe House, and I would very much like Safe House to be all that our community wants and needs it to be. And I will say the most communication I've gotten from Safe House were some threats through the grapevine that my political career might be affected by taking a stand on it. And so I think we need to have some more conversations.
Absolutely. I don't disagree with that. The goal tonight was just to provide you where we are with the survivors that have come, that we've been really working hard with, or working hard for, to provide them with the necessary support that they need. And we need to continue to do that if others come our way. And there are, like I said, there are some recommendations. There are things that need to get reviewed. We need to determine what is Washtenaw County government role in Safe House and providing those services as a safety net for the community at large.
Agreed. And thank you. I just felt like seeing that letter. I'm very grateful for the work that the county has done for Safe House. I think as we're talking about putting hundreds of thousands of dollars more into security, et cetera, that's probably a larger conversation.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Muted. Sorry, I was muted. Looking for others, I see Commissioner Scott.
Thanks, Chair. And thank you, Commissioner Schenk, for saying exactly what I was thinking. I think that there are I am so grateful that we are trying to get answers to these questions right now. I am hoping that somebody can send me a copy of the bylaws, please, for Safe House. I think I might have asked for that before, but maybe not. Maybe I just thought it in my head. So if I could get a copy of those bylaws and we could just look to see what the operation is. And I think that because we own the land and the house, we should be thinking about what our presence on the board of directors looks like. And that's something I want us to think about going forward. So we are not left in a position the way we are now with having this responsibility with little oversight on what's happening there. So just a copy of those bylaws so we can see how the operation works. I like to know those things when we think about hopefully making changes for the better. And hopefully what we can do is look at what's happened and move forward. That is very much my wish in all of this. Thank you.
I'm sorry for interrupting, Commissioner Scott. We do have a copy of the bylaws. I will ask Letitia to send those out. I can send those, have her send them to the full board if you would like that.
She did send them out. It's in the
Excuse
email.
me?
She did send them out. They're in the email.
Oh,
In the
okay.
attachment.
I missed it. I knew
Okay.
they might have been someplace there. Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner Jefferson.
And they were last updated August 1st, 2013. And so, I mean, I think there's absolutely a need to review those bylaws, particularly in light of, you know, the communications of late and whatnot. So we will absolutely do that. And one of the things I do know that Greg and I have talked about is the presence of the board and the role of the board as part of the board of directors.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner Jefferson, also for pinging that for me. Thanks.
Thank you. Commissioner Jefferson.
Yes, thank you, Chair. This presentation, thanks Diane for being the messenger. I look at it as a lot of work to be put into the building, which is because of neglect over the years. I don't know if that's because of a lack of communication between the people at Safe House to let us know at the county that there were some desperate changes and repairs and replacements that needed to happen. So yes, I'm interested in whether or not this could be something that the county will continue with Safe House. And if there is a model, I think there was a reference to the one in the Flint area, I believe it is, that during the time that we were discussing this, but to see if there's a model that is workable and sustainable and can be, I guess, a partner that is willing to be evaluated and monitored by the county, since we're getting ready to do a lot of work and funding that work into the facilities. So yeah, the letter was kind of what Commissioner Shink brought out. For me, the same thing. So we have to make sure that this is something we want to be connected to. That's going to be a community partner that we can trust with our residents. So thank you again.
Thank you.
Commissioner.
Thanks, Chair. Diane, do we, I have similar feelings to my colleagues here, and particularly Commissioner Shink's comment around, it seems like the county is doing a lot of the heavy lifting here, which I fully support, because we first have to make sure that survivors are taken care of and that they are safe. But are we going to see ourselves getting back to a point where Safe House can fulfill its function and we can rely on Safe House to care for survivors? Do you have any idea what the next steps are in terms of getting that functional? Because I think that's the priority, is to get back to an actual normal sort of system with Safe House where they are filling that role in our community. I think that's why we give them hundreds of thousands of dollars a year, is to fulfill that role. I'm also concerned that we are putting all of these resources into the facilities when I'm not opposed to it if it's needed, but it seems like that is something that Safe House should have been doing throughout the time that they were overseeing the facility. So those are my concerns. I don't know if you have thoughts on that.
So the goal, certainly the goal is to get Safe House back to functioning in a normal capacity and providing the necessary services to the citizens of the county. I do know, and I'm sure you're all aware, is that there continues to be the independent investigation that's going on. What I can indicate to you is that Greg expects, or anticipates, I guess I should say, that that a report will be in by the end of this month. That is certainly the hope, that we'll have the findings and potential recommendations as part of that. So our goal is that we want Safe House to succeed. We want Safe House to be able to provide the best possible services that are absolutely needed, and the citizens of this county, the survivors of these, very, very, very difficult points in their times in their lives. So there has been, Commissioner Morgan, if I can just tell you as well, our facilities department does on a regular basis do repairs when contacted by Safe House, because we do have a maintenance agreement with them with regard to who provides which, what level of repair, who pays for certain things and whatnot. And so that has been a coordinated effort. However, there are things that appear maybe have fallen through the crack, or we weren't 100% aware of.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Labar.
Sure. As we talk about Safe House, I also think it'd be helpful to get the perspective from our treasurer, Catherine, given her role in getting Safe House going. And another voice, whom I know some of you know from public health, is Kathy Fojic Stroud. Having some context in terms of what existed at the time of creation and those needs that were seeking to be filled, I think that would help all of us understand Safe House relationship with the county entity to entity, and would welcome that chance. Those who know Kathy know she is happy to chat with folks and tell them more. And I'm sure our treasurer would be too. If that's possible, that'd be great. Thanks.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, looking to see if anybody else has any questions or concerns, comments. I do not see any. Diane, thank you again for presenting us with this update this evening. And I think we've had some good feedback from members of the commission as well. So
yeah, thank you.
I'm going to move on. If nothing else, I'm going to move on to items for current and future discussion. Seeing none, we'll go to item 7, pending items, which there are none, which would lead us to item 8, adjournment.
I'm going to motion to adjourn.
I'll support that.
Motion by Scott, supported by Morgan. All those in favor of adjournment, say aye.
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 We will stand adjourned and at 7:34 p.m. Everybody have a good rest of your evening.
Thank you,
Thank you.
everyone. Have a
Happy
good night.
holidays.
Yeah, happy Thanksgiving.
Enjoy your holiday.